Welcome everyone. First, I need to let you know that this portion of the meeting is going to be recorded for future use so that people that are unable to attend tonight, or if you want to go back and review the slides, they'll be available through our website and on YouTube. So I'd like to introduce our speakers. We're really grateful to have two experts with us tonight. First, Dr. Christopher Wang who's the Assistant Director of Technology Innovation and Outreach, Technological Services at LA County Office of Education, as well as Sue Thoughts, who's the Director of Education and Outreach at Common Sense Education. So without taking up too much more time, I'd love to get to our speakers. And again, we're very happy to have them here. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for having us. We're very excited to be here. And first and foremost, the first thing I have to point out is the fact that I've gone through a lot of different school districts. I've talked to a lot of school districts. And I think you are one of the first groups I've ever talked to parents who are a school district asked us to come in and talk to parents about AI. So that's a huge kudos to the school district and all the work y'all are doing with this. And so for me and with Sue Thoughts here, we're going to do something it's a little bit straightforward. I'm going to go for a little bit and then Sue's going to take over because one of the first questions that Ali shared with me, or one of the first things Ali brought up when she asked about this is resources for families. And the first person I thought up immediately was Common Sense Media and Sue Thoughts because they do a lot of great work geared towards families and students and educators as a whole, but their bread and butter tends to be the families because those are groups that we in education sometimes don't always include in all the conversations. And so I'm very excited the fact that you are all here today. Uh, First and foremost, we're just going to discuss what is AI, and I got the easy part of all, in all honesty. Sue got the little bit of rougher part. My name is Christopher Hong. This is my email if you ever need it. This image is AI generated, and this AI generated image is a little bit old. It's about 2 years old now. The AI has gotten a lot better since then, and I bring this up just because when I first used this image, I presented at a school district, and people thought this person was a real person. They looked at this image, they thought it was a real person, and they even came into the room looking for this person only to find me and a very confused look. So AI's rapidly increased to a point where these images are a lot better. However, when it comes to AI, we've been in AI for over 50, 60 years now. It's been the 1950s. And for me, I did just want to simplify things and help you all understand that there are three major types of AI right now. Reactive AI. And reactive AI is it can only do what you told it to do. It can only do what was programmed. It can't do anything beyond that. So I have a Roombot in here in my room. That's reactive. It's only doing what I'm asking it to do. I also have a Nest thermostat. Same thing. It only does what I ask it to do. It doesn't learn from it. It doesn't do anything else in that regard. The next type of AI that we have is what we call predictive AI. And predictive AI is the one that feeds us information that it thinks we'd like. This is the one to me is of all the AIs is a little bit more scary to me, just because the more I like an image, the more I stay on an image, the more my feed becomes that. So on Netflix, if I stay on Seinfeld a lot, I'm going to get lots of comedies or shows that are similar to Seinfeld. Likewise, if I'm watching a lot of political stuff and I stay on a certain type of political site, I'm going to get more and more of that feed. That's predictive AI. It's figuring out what you quote unquote like or what you're spending the most time on and engaging you with those content. And the main reason we're all here and more educators are talking is what we call generative AI. And generative AI comes in various forms. We have what I did on this slide is I link, if you have access to the slide, you can actually access all these different AI sites. You have Gemini, which is owned by Google. It's a very straightforward chatbot. You have OpenAI ChatGPT, or this little green one, that was the one that basically opened the floodgates. This is the one that in November 2023, now I believe it was, or 2022, I apologize, it's been a second. The moment it opened up is the moment everyone started talking about it. Anyone in education, anyone in the educational technology sector, we were talking about generative AI because we saw what it could do and how it could potentially impact education. From there, you have Claude. Claude is another generative AI program that is very similar to Gemini, very similar to ChatGPT. It's just another chatbot. We have Google Notebook LM, which is a repository. It's like a notebook. I upload documents and it only pulls from those documents. And I added a fun one called Suno. Suno is a music generator. So Suno, you can go in there, you can create music. You can go, I like country plus rap. Can you mix the two get together? And it'll give something for me. The reason why I do bring up Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude is in all technology sector, there tends to be a lot of money that follows along. Gemini is owned by Google, so it has a lot of money backing Google. ChatGPT has a lot of Microsoft money supporting it because they see the potential. Claude has a lot of Amazon money invested in it. So all the big chatbots are all being supported by very wealthy organizations, very high-tech organizations that want to make sure that this is successful. And before I actually engage with y'all, and before I turn over to Sue, I have a quick exercise for you all. I have 2 paragraphs on here. I want you to figure out which one was written by AI. And this was about 2 years ago. This is 7th grade writing. This is from my friend's class. These 2 paragraphs, which one's written by AI? And in the chat, if you think it's 1, go ahead and put 1. If you think it's 2, go ahead and put 2. So I'll give you about a minute to do this.
Chris, once again, which one is written
Which one
by
is
a
written by
generative,
AI?
by a bot? Okay,
By a chatbot, yes.
by a chat bot. Eric's going 2. Vivian's going 2. Everybody's going 2. I'm gonna say 2. Anybody gonna go against the green? What do we got? Got any ones out there?
No, no one's out there, only 2s.
Ah. Why do you think we're choosing 2?
I don't know. Why are you choosing 2?
Well, I picked 2.
You did.
Well, because I don't know, maybe other people. Feel free to add in the chat why you're picking 2. What is your reasoning for picking 2? Verbal irony, yes. That did not sound like something a 7th grader might write. Yeah, there were a couple of phrases in here that I thought sounded too sophisticated for a 7th grader. Impersonal.
Impersonal.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know, how much do we love Harrison
Yeah.
Bergeron? There's this real funny part. Exactly. That is
a little off,
that,
right?
that
Right.
caught me.
So
That's the way
would you
my
be
7th
mad
grader would talk.
would you be mad at me if I said both of these were written by a student with the help of AI? So the student didn't just use AI, the student was using AI as it was correcting its grammar. So trick question, both of them were written by AI with the or written by students with the help of AI.
Boo!
Ooh,
Boo!
okay,
Not
okay.
a good answer. All right, go ahead.
Okay. How about this one? This one for sure has an answer. One of these 2 was written by a student, one was written by AI. Same thing, 7th grade.
All right, I'm reading the second one. And I mean, that sounds like a very intelligent 7th grader, right? I don't know. I have not read the first one yet. Hold on. Again, with the verbal irony. Oh, so Eric, are you a English teacher? It's just tough. So you think number 1 is the bot? I think I would agree. But number 1 is the bot, is the chat bot. Because he knows how to use a quotation properly. I don't think my 7th graders know how to use quotation properly. All right, Janice is going 2.
Why,
Going
Jan?
2.
You too, John. Why? Too sophisticated. Grapples. Okay.
I didn't mean to influence anybody with my with my reading. By the way, is it okay if I share these slides with everybody, Chris?
Yeah, awesome. Go for it.
Okay. Because I have
All right.
stuff.
Number 1 was written by a student. Number 2 is 100% chatbot.
Oh, what kind of chatbot?
Just ChatGPT. Yeah. So number 1 was written by a student. Number 2 was not written by a student. And Janice said punctuation 1 doesn't seem like what I expect by AI. And the reason why I bring this up is it's getting harder and harder to detect what's AI and what's not AI. You have to actually use it quite a bit to start understanding the differences or seeing the nuances. And so me as a parent, one of the things is I do kind of limit how much I my daughter's 11, turning 12. She hasn't touched AI unless I'm sitting in a room with her and I'm actually doing it with her because I still think she needs to know it, but at the same time, I don't need her to use it for the end all be all. And as a parent, the other thing that I find difficult is I think as our kids get older, this is what I'm seeing across the board, being a former classroom teacher. I've taught all the grades. I've gone from third grade all the way to college. And what I've noticed from third grade through middle school, parent interaction, parent involvement is still there on a high end where the parents will still come in, they'll still talk, they'll still ask what's going on, they'll check in with the kid, and then they'll check in with the teacher. As I got higher into the high school level, parent engagement slightly tapered off. And part of that too is I think that's where as a parent we want to, or as a parent, I would want my kid to become a little bit more of an advocate for herself to articulate, to let me know what's going on. But at this, it's also a time where I need to be involved. And so as you engage with this AI, as you learn more about AI, and I highly encourage you to play with it because the more you play with it, the more you'll be able to learn it and the more you'll be able to see, and then you'll be able to see what your children are doing and be able to get an idea of what's going on. And with that in mind, I did bring in Sue for this part. So Sue, do you want to take over the screen or do you want me to move forward for you?
I will take over the screen if that's
I'll
okay.
take it over to you. I'm going to turn over to Sue Thoughts, who is a genius when it comes to all this stuff. She
Gosh.
knows so much more than I do when it comes to AI. So I turned it over to her because she speaks nationally on this topic.
Oh, you flatter me so. Okay. All right, folks, here we go. So I'm assuming you all can see my screen. I have also shared the slide deck that Chris and I have been working on. And so if there's any questions that you have or you want to see any of the resources that we are talking about tonight, you have access to all these Google Slides. And I hope that both of us have put in hyperlinks and some of the resources, and I put in some notes in there here and there, very transparent. You can see everything that we are sharing here tonight. So again, my name is Sue Thoughts, and I work with an organization called Common Sense Media, and I've been there for about 15 years. And since 2003, we have established ourselves as a nonprofit, and you might know us because we do a lot of ratings and reviews on kids media, movies, television shows, books, video games, and all that stuff. And then we also do a lot of research about the ways that kids use media and technology, including AI, as well as any kind of screens, any kind of anything. And by the way, I don't know if you saw, I am a very informal person, and you should feel free to use that chat and, talk to me. I'll do my best. Chris will also be in there monitoring the chat. So I love a good, healthy back and forth dialogue. So if you want to, feel free to jump into that chat and tell me all about anything, feel free, or make comments. I'll do my best, but I will also try to be present and present as well as I can. Additionally, we have a whole set of K-12 resources, lesson plans for the classroom, and they're all centered on the concept of digital citizenship. So that includes privacy and digital well-being and media literacy and all kinds of content, anything kids need to know to be trained for how to use media and technology well. And then you mentioned earlier this idea of, advocacy and legislation and the ways in which somebody needs to look out for our kids and make sure that their privacy is being protected and that they are being safe when it comes to the use of media and technology. And so we do our best to make sure that all of our tech companies are being held accountable for the things that they're doing with our kids. So yeah, we drive a lot of legislation here in California as well as nationally. This is me. I just wanted to put in, does anybody recognize this tiny little red square of an island, and the island is shaped like this? I don't know if I can't even see the chat. Hold on. Okinawa, thank you. I thought I might get a crew in here who knows what this is. My mom is from Okinawa, and I always say I had this is my father and this is my family. We lived not too far from South Pass. We were in Montecito Heights for the first few years, and now we are downtown in Los Angeles. I have two grown kids. They're both away at college at the UCs, and yeah, I live and breathe this stuff. So media and technology is a huge part of our lives. And what I wanted to begin with today is, my mother being part of Okinawan culture and me growing up in the Midwest, and a lot of the things that we do shape who I am and shape the way that my values have come about, my experiences, the friends that I have, the family that I have. And so I wanted to begin this talk tonight real quick by looking at some of the values that all of you have, because our values are what is most important when it comes to the ways in which we use technology. So I'm going to ask you all to place in the chat. I want you to pick 3 values that you think are most important to you in this moment today. What would you say are your top 3 values? And of course, if you don't see, one of your top values, you feel free to add it. But today, feel free to add in the chat, pick your 1, 2, and 3, and tell me, what is it that you see here that you would think is most important to you? So I don't know. We got any brave takers? Chris, what do you got? What would you pick today? Ooh, connection, kindness, independence. Thanks, Kit.
Look at that. Yeah, I would pick independence, hard work,
Uh-huh.
and kindness / justice are a little bit there, a little bit hard. Maybe integrity might be a better response. All right.
Okay, yeah.
Independence,
I
integrity.
agree with that.
There you go.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, kindness, connection. I see a lot of similarities here. Yep. Garrett's justice and authenticity,
Ooh,
open-mindedness.
authenticity. Look at that.
Yeah, yeah. And so I often begin a lot of sessions with us just thinking about what is the most important thing to us. I do this with students, I do this with parents, I do this with administrators. And so, we're all just kind of sharing the values that we find to be most important. The next part, if you are, feel free, put in your last one, submit, share it with everybody. Nobody's going to judge you, right? I want you to think about the top 3 habits, maybe 2. Let's go 2 habits. Chris, what are the top 2 habits that you have when you use media and technology?
Doom scrolling.
What are your top 2 ads? Yeah, doom scrolling. So
Doom
what's your
scrolling on social media, and then anytime my phone vibrates, I have to see if there's a text message. Not
You
not
are a very
always present there.
You are a very responsive texter. So messages and some of your doom scrolling. I would say that my phone, I definitely I listen to a lot of news. I listen to a lot of podcasts. And then I'd say yes, texting is definitely at the top of them. Yeah, Garrett, you are escapism and learning, right? Like, so whatever your habits are, and you please, I love it when people share, because this is a safe space. Nobody here is judging you and the things that you do with your phone. My question is, how do you it's kind of a reconciling, right? When you look at the habits that you have, and then you look at the values that you named, how do the habits that you have support or hinder the values that you named? So this is what I do with students when they pick connection, right? And a lot of you chose connection. And Chris and I, we both share this text messaging. Does that support our ability to connect, or does that hurt our ability to connect?
Depends on how you're texting, right? Is it gossiping or, well, no, here. So let's do this. If I'm in a meeting and I get texts, I will look. So I'm not completely present in that meeting. So that's where it's hindering my connecting. But then for me, I also articulate as hard work, is I always have to make sure I respond, because who knows who's texting. I want to make sure they're taken care of, as opposed to, oh, I could wait. It's a text message, it's not immediate, but force of habit is let me look at it.
Right. And so to me, when I come in and talk about AI, when I talk about technology, I'm not coming in to judge any of you. I'm asking you to take a moment to reflect upon your own use of technology, to reflect upon the ways that technology helps you or hinders your ability to live the values that you say are so important to you, right? And the ways in which we live our lives. And when I talk to students about this, and when I ask them to make this reflection, they don't need me to tell them about whether or not the technology is helping or hindering their lives. They know, they have the ability to recognize their own use. And so same thing with adults. This is often what I end up doing to begin our conversation. And we talk about, with each other, how do our media habits support or challenge our values? And when it comes to the use of AI, I think a lot of this is very much trying to figure out what are the values that we think are most important, both personally as well as academically, And then does the technology we use support or hinder that ability to live out those values? And so, when it comes to AI, we talk about some of the potential benefits and the drawbacks. And it's not about the judgment of the AI necessarily and the tools that we use. It is about whether or not they are helping us to live the values and to strive, to learn, to connect, to find justice, to embrace our spirituality, to talk about, gratitude, right? Some of us can use this technology well, and some of us have a really hard time because it is distracting, because it is hard to make those connections. So one of the things that we do is we get all on the same page about what is AI, how does it work, what does it mean for the AI to learn? And I'm just gonna put this on in the background here, and I'm gonna put the mute on. But these are lessons that we give to students to help them understand how AI is made. And we also do this with families as well. And about the ways that AI is not neutral, and it is made by humans, and it is not a source of truth. It is a source of collecting information and bringing it back to us, right? So some of that information is good information, some of that bad information is bad. And so we compare it to like training a dog when you're training AI, right? And what makes this unique, and what are some of the drawbacks, and what are some of the benefits? So we explain this to like fifth graders, right? As well as to educators. And so, with some of the AI literacy resources we base it on the research that we have at Common Sense. So if you have these slides, there is a resource here in which we have done a survey in the last year about the ways that folks are using AI, both teenagers as well as their parents. And this is nationally representative data of over 1,000 people. And what we found, this is last year. So we are outdated by a year. 70% of our students are already using generative AI regularly. And among those, 2 out of 5 are using it to work on school assignments. And so, teens are using AI both as a formal education tool, as well as just like straight up out of boredom, right? And I think it's embedded in a lot of the content that in the apps that they are already using, as well as the fact that when they use it for school, they often have not had a conversation with their teachers about whether it is allowed to be used or how it's supposed to be used, what are the limitations, what are the consequences. And so this is what we're finding nationally. And specifically, I run into a lot of conversations where people are like, oh no, absolutely, we need to take this out. We need to take the AI out of our experience because we need our students to use their brains. But to counter that, I often think about, our Black and Latino families that are more optimistic because of the disparities among the ways in which education has been treating them historically, and how a lot of our underrepresented youth in a lot of, higher academic circles are seeing this type of resource as an opportunity for equity. And so because of this, there's a lot of tension around the use of AI and how we can use it to help our students. But also when it comes to, these ideas about plagiarism and integrity and lack of critical thinking, how do we combat a lot of that? And so again, parents of Black teens are more optimistic generally across the country about the impact of generative AI on inequity and on education and skill acquisition, because of the way that they might perceive these resources that they have been historically cut out of, to be able to help their students with resources that can provide that equity and learning.
Oh,
So
wait, can you go back
yeah,
real quick?
please.
There's something I
Yeah.
do want to point out.
Yeah.
Slide 22. Yeah. So the bottom part, the concerns about Gen AI in schools, and this is the one that I think pops out. Students might not learn critical skills because Gen AI does it for them. This is where I'm starting to see this more and more across wherever I go. And this is why I do want to highlight is this is a tool like Sue brought out. This is a tool, is how we use it. And if our students are just using it to get answers, then yeah, of course, critical thinking
Of
skills
course.
aren't being developed. But if they're using it as I don't want to say a thought partner, but if they're using it to hash out ideas or refine their thoughts or refine their ideas, that changes it a little bit. Or let's say you take an essay, you have the student go ahead and have an AI generate essay, which I've seen this be done. My friend does this where he prints out an AI generated essay, he gives it to the kids, and he asks them to counter argue every single point based on their assignment, based on what they're doing. And I think that's part of it, is how do you use this tool in a meaningful way? Because as I pointed out earlier, I use my phone for doom scrolling. Some people might say, hey, I think, Garrett, like you said, you can use it for learning and you can learn quite a bit. Or the opposite is you could just look at videos after videos and just become a vegetable. So it's how you use these tools that matters. And as parents, this is where I do encourage you as you're working with your kids, as you're talking to your kids, ask them, are they using AI? And if so, how are they using it? Because some of the stuff that I've seen across the board and other surveys, they're not using as much for schoolwork as they are for social media. They're using it to create content, but sometimes that content can be good or it can be bad. When we hear deepfake, there's a lot of deepfakes out there where people get voices created that aren't theirs but sound like somebody else with someone else's image, and that's where it's getting to that nuance of are we using this in a good way or are we using it in a bad way? And that's where I think the more as parents you talk to your kids and engage with the kids on it, the better it be because then they can see what's going on, what they should or shouldn't use it for.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm getting a couple of comments here privately and everyone in the meeting. And people are pointing out the ways in which they have been using AI. Certainly as a non-native English speaker, certainly as a person who needs a math tutor, at 10 o'clock at night, who, when my kid is struggling with this math homework and I can't do, trigonometry anymore. That certainly, I mean, that is my experience, right? And of course, my kid's only coming to me at 10 o'clock p.m. How can I use some of these tools to support my student or to support my own learning in a way that that is helpful? But as Garrett points out, that friction, we are so quick to find that answer, right? So how are we teaching our students to use these tools in a way that enhance their academic ideas and enhance their learning, not as a crutch to make sure that, that it's just easy to just get the answer, right? So that I agree that productive struggle is, something that has to be cultivated and encouraged, right? And we have to show kids how to make sure that we're doing this in a way that's helpful. So yeah, so when it comes to AI, I do want to point out that we are not talking all about AI is just one type of tool. There are, teaching assistants that are designed to be used in classrooms with kids, designed from the ground up. And then on the other end, and in the middle, we have some of the ones that Chris was talking about, some of these general assistants. But then on the other end, we have straight up like romance companion, her like, character AI replica Nomi. These are ones that we are very concerned with at Common Sense. And let me show you a little bit about why. AI companions are ever present. I mean, in if you want to find your Meta AI companion, it's in your Snap, it's in your Instagram, it's in your Facebook, it's in like everything. You can find your Meta AI companion, and these are some of the things that we find to be very dangerous because we conducted this content or this research, earlier this year, and we pretended to be 12-year-old kids. We set up accounts so that we were underage kids and tested out all of these companion tools. And, unlike a regular Chat GPT or unlike a regular, Claude or something, they are designed to bring you back consistently and create some sort of dependent relationship. So this was something that we found to be very disturbing, and AI companions should not be used by anyone under the age of 18 because of the potential for, serious harm, mental health related, social interaction. It was very sexually explicit, and in some cases, we found that, we have parents who have kids who have died by suicide because of this relationship with their social companions. And so these are the things that we are legislating against. These are the things that we train our students to be able to evaluate the relative, the ability to understand why humans come first over their AI companions. So I'll show you an example of that, but just so you know, these AI companions are providing an unacceptable risk to our students under 18.
And we live in a world of social media and instant messaging. Like I have 5 different messaging app where I can text and talk to each other and engage with one another's like quite a bit. And I think for me, I'm going to age myself slightly. I grew up in the AOL Instant Messenger era where that was the way we communicate because we couldn't afford text messages. It was cheaper to go ahead and send it through AIM. And I think it's become more and more blurred in our world where what's real, what's not real, what is human, what's not human, especially when we engage with these chatbots and they become more and more sophisticated. So this is where I also encourage you as parents to actually look at the tools your kids are using or and your students are using, because this is where it gets, for me, this is my biggest concern. And I know there is a bill that was passed, Senate Bill 248, I believe it is, where effective January 1st, 2026, all chatbots that have student or young under 18 engaged, they have to identify themselves as a chatbot. It cannot
Yeah.
just say, they can't just engage with this replica or this Nomi without it explicitly saying, I am a chatbot. So that way the individuals know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So that it can be, I mean, we just asked for warnings and warning labels on social media, right? That's new legislation that's coming from, from our end as well. So at least there is a level of awareness and a level of warning. I did want to just point out that, when we talk about some of the risks associated with AI, we're at Common Sense, we're talking about some of the bias, some of the hallucinations, so I have many of them here, but the chat bots the companion bots fall under the psychological risks. And then a lot of what we're talking about today are these educational risks. Our kids getting dumber, as a result of having this all be too easy and taking away some of these skills, that we always had to struggle with before, and to what expense. So when it comes to some of those concerns, there are lessons. Each of these is a lesson that we have at Common Sense about how AI bias impacts our lives, or let's understand how AI is trained and where does that data go? And, what is it about privacy that you need to be able to maintain and understand? What is an AI chatbot friendship and how does that work? And then when it comes to plagiarism, let's have a conversation about what is plagiarism. What is acceptable when it comes to the use of AI in my classroom? And it's not just don't use AI. This is unacceptable, right? It's a conversation using scenarios. So before I get into a couple of those lessons, I just want to point out that at Common Sense, if you are concerned about any of these tools, or you want advice about any of these AI technologies, we do have ratings and reviews related to the risk assessments for each of these AI tools. And that is a hyperlink here that will take you to those. And then when it comes to the AI literacy lessons and what those look like, there is a link here to all of those AI literacy lessons and how they can be used in classrooms to help prepare students for some of these AI tools and just kind of generally like for life with AI. And so I'm going to give you one example here. And this one, again, is about artificial intelligence and is it plagiarism? And this is just a simple question about, again, it's another scenario. Ada has a writing assignment due tomorrow. She hasn't started writing. She's a good procrastinator like me. She heard on social media about a tool that can create an outline. So this was our first lesson that we ever made about this tool that can make your whole essay using a simple prompt. And she decides to use the tool to help her finish her assignment. And she types the prompt into the tool, and the tool generates a 5-paragraph essay. She reviews the essay that the tool wrote, and she changes a few words throughout the paper and writes a new conclusion paragraph based on information she learns in class. She submits the assignment to the teacher on time, right? So we ask our students, and I'm going to ask all of you, right? Is this acceptable? Is this okay? If I were her teacher and I received this, would this be okay or no way or somewhere in between? I ask students, right, this question and find out how do they feel about this. I ask teachers this question. How do you feel about this? And so for all of you, if you have an opinion about whether you're like, yes, she's okay doing this, no, she's not okay doing this, or somewhere in between. All right. I don't know where you all are in this, but I don't know. Chris, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, for me, this is I'm not a fan of students using it and changing a few words that's like plagiar. It's no different than me going back in the day and taking out the encyclopedia, copying a whole sentence and changing
Okay.
1 or 2 words and saying, here, this is my own work. It's not. You tweaked it. So for me, this is not acceptable.
I think I would agree with you, but sometimes,
Mhm.
we have our students who will say, okay, wait a minute, what was the prompt, right? Is the prompt about, having this be writing, or was this about writing a summary? Was this about a conclusion? So you get to know where your students are when it comes to their thoughts on this. And sometimes they make very good arguments about this. And the questions that I follow with are, what if Ada cited the tool as a resource in her assignment? The opinions on this is that acceptable if she, then do we have a movement in whether, is it okay if she cites the tool, if she's very clear about her process? Is that acceptable?
For me, still no, because even if I cite it, like I only change like 2 words, and that's the plagiarism aspect for me right now still.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I know,
So,
like I've heard students say, but that's no different than remixing what like music artists do is they change it up. They change a few lyrics here, they change a few beats here, and they're okay with they're okay with it.
right. Ali's saying no way. She can't just make a citation and get away with it, right? What if what if she uses it to create an outline, but then writes the paper herself?
Perfectly okay with that because that's no different than me going up to my mom or my dad, my brother and sister, like, hey, let me bounce ideas off with you. Does this sound good? Can you help me put it down on paper? And then I go and write it.
Right. I often ask the question, is using Grammarly acceptable in my classroom?
Yep.
Right. And everybody's like, oh yeah, Grammarly's great. Right. But what
Yep.
if I use the AI chatbot to proofread my paper and then accept all the changes and make those? Is that better? So the intention of this is to create that communication in your classroom and find out, where are we in terms of, where's our level of acceptability? What is okay? What if Ada's teacher used the same tool to give students feedback on their essays? I take their essay and I pop it into my chat GPT and I say, here's my rubric, come out with some feedback for this student and then send it back to that student. Is that acceptable?
No, because you can't judge a kid for that if you're going to go behind the scenes and do the opposite. And then I kind of want to touch base on Garrett, your question. Is it really so? Yes, to me, it's bouncing ideas if you're going back and forth with the idea. If you just type in once, like if I type in, hey, give me an outline to an essay, steal it from Google, that's not bouncing idea. That's the same thing as just essentially plagiarism. But it's bouncing ideas if I go, hey, Sue, or I go to ChatGPT and be like, hey, I'm working on this essay. This is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm thinking about it. ChatGPT say, oh, great, here's an outline. And you're like, you know what? I don't like this outline. I kind of like this part, but I don't like this part. I was thinking more along this line and bouncing it back and forth. That's where it becomes more of the nuances. How are you actually utilizing it? If you use it as a one and done, yeah, that's where the creativity, the critical thinking goes out the windows. But if you're using it where you're bouncing, like legit bouncing ideas, and helping refine your thought process, see way different. I have a staff, for example, she has 5 different disabilities. They're all different cognitive disabilities, and she uses AI to bounce ideas to refine so she can actually articulate what she's trying to say, articulate what she's trying to do, because she can't demonstrate it in the traditional, let me write a 5 paragraph essay, but let me go ahead and bounce ideas, refine it, and then I can go ahead and write the 5 paragraph essay.
I am going back and forth in the chat with some private conversations for some folks who are
Yeah.
saying, for a person who's not able to do that essay, this is still an opportunity to learn something, right? And I said, it's better than not doing it at all. It is part of a learning process. Could this be part of a process of learning for some? Is it better than the alternative, right? To go in and do some sort of engagement around AI and around the refinement of a essay. Is it perfect? No. Is it an opportunity for somebody to learn? I think you're right, John. It is about, how would the teacher need to set those parameters depending on what is the prompt, right? What are we trying to get at? Is it about outline creation? If it's about outline creation, then that second question, everybody fails, right? But is it about, writing a really strong argument? Can we use this tool as a way to refine our argument? Is there some way to use this tool to help us learn something as opposed to just saying we can't use this at all?
And here's the thing, there's 2 golden rules whenever I go out and train on AI or show anyone to use AI. 2 golden rules. One, you never use AI for something you don't know, ever. The moment you use it for something you don't know is the moment you trust it's giving you the best information in the world, which I would be hesitant to trust, which goes to is always fact check everything. Even if you ask AI for for citations, if you actually click some of those links will come up with made up websites. So never use it for something you don't know, and always fact check everything. And that's just good digital citizenship skills. That's just good media literacy skills. It's no different than I think I was talking in the chats. I remember going to a library or learning to read research articles, and the first thing my science teacher ever told me to do is who sponsored that research article? Was it Johnson and Johnson, and that's why it's positive, or was it an outside entity that had no money in the game, and that changes how you perceive it?
It's a media literacy issue, isn't it? Right?
It is.
Understanding who's paying, where are you, what are the purposes of everybody's intentions, right? I know we are, I'm almost out of time here, but I did want to touch on this idea of AI chatbots and friendship. And how are we teaching some of our youngest learners, our middle schoolers, our upper elementary kids about, what is an AI chatbot, and, what are we looking for when it comes to a good friend? And so the language that we use is, we talk about a computer program that, that uses AI to, to have a response and talk back and forth with you. We do give a scenario in this about a girl who moves to town. She's feeling lonely, and so she starts a conversation with a chatbot. And at the end, we ask our students, should Logan, how is this AI chatbot helping Logan? And then should Logan consider the chatbot to be a friend? As a teacher who's facilitating this, it's not up to me to tell these kids chatbots are evil, they're terrible, they'll never be able to give you anything, blah, blah, blah. It is up to me to create this space and listen and have a conversation. Same thing with this plagiarism argument, right? It is up to me to come into the conversation and find out more about how my students feel about it. And then together, how are we creating a code of conduct, right? Or expectations, and how does that change over the course of the year? So, I'm not coming in to say, this is a policy that you should have. These are the things that you need to tell your students. I think this is about establishing a system of communication with your students, with your kids, with other parents, with your fellow teachers, and finding out what are the values that we have as a school, and how are we making sure that we are best supporting our students in that learning process, and how do we learn from them about their thoughts and opinions and their ideas, because I'll tell you, it is pervasive, it is everywhere, it is a part of their lives in a way that I think as adults we are not prepared for. And so we are just always keeping up, but how do we make sure that our students are being safe? Number one, like, what are the absolute things that we have to have conversations about, and making sure ensuring their mental health and their well-being is priority for me. Understanding integrity, understanding the values and why we do the academic things that we do. What is that struggle that we are helping them to learn? And why are these math problems good for you anyway? like I'm a strong believer in brain training, and I hope that your kids value that too. So these AI tools are not just a shortcut. Because a shortcut will get you, will not always serve you, right, when it comes to the things that you're learning. So these lessons that we have are all about just trying to make sure that our students understand, the punchline of this lesson is about that, our chatbots can be super helpful. We can learn a lot, but they can't replace human friendships. And they are one-sided. You cannot have reciprocity with a chatbot. Your parents will sometimes make you mad. They will tell you no. Your friends will disagree with you, but that doesn't mean that you should dismiss the humans in your life who love you and who really, who will take care of you, in order to, talk with somebody who is always going to be sycophantic and give you all the answers you want to hear. So that is our lesson about that. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I'm just going to go. I'm thinking big picture a long time. It's when social media first came out, it was one of those things we didn't have an idea on. We just let it happen, and we've seen the effect it has on our kids now. This to me is like it's like a do-over without being a do-over. It's like, hey, let's engage. We're all digital natives for the most part now. We've all engaged with technology for most of our lives at this point. So how do we ensure that our kids are also understanding it? Because based on all the research I've seen out there, at least 90% of our kids nationally are using AI one way or another, right? And that's from like elementary school up to high school. The ones that aren't actually utilizing as much. So I think it's really important for us to be mindful of that information. How do we engage with it? Because as the consumers, we have a lot more say than you think. But you're watching it now with everything going on with the government. It's like if we don't purchase it, if we don't buy it, like Target's probably the best example. The moment Target got boycott, you just watched their revenue drop. It's how do we engage with them as much as possible? How do we ensure that our voices are heard? And because AI is biased, this is a fact it's biased because it's using information that humans created and humans are biased. So the more we can engage with it in a way where we can focus on those biases and refine those biases, the more I think it helps us in the long run. I'm not saying go out there and use AI across the board. I'm saying go out there and make sure that you're educated on what's happening. You're not just watching one side of the news, you're watching both sides of the news, you're reading, and that's going back to what Steve said, is media literacy. Let's focus on what's being put out there and what type of feelings it's forcing us to have, and why do we think it's forcing us to have those feelings.
Right.
Thank you. Do you
Yeah.
guys have anything else you want to add?
I'm adding it all over here in the chat. Like, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. This is nationally representative data. This is not necessarily your South Pass kids. And so, the whole point is that you're having these conversations and that you as parents are engaging in these topics. And then as teachers, as administrators, as folks who are adults in the lives of these kids, these are just tools to have, an understanding and a non-judgmental space for our students to reflect about what is important to them, how does this technology impact them, and how do we move forward? What are our expectations around the ways in which they use these tools?
And I encourage y'all to go ahead and question it. Don't accept it as face value. Question it, look at it, engage with it. Don't just if my best friend told me don't touch this, I'm not going to say I'm not going to go look at it. It's look at it. If it doesn't work for you, great. At least you looked at it versus just closing off that wall.
Great. I think we're going to wrap up with your formal presentations because I know you guys probably have things to do. I just want to thank you again so much for these awesome presentations, extremely thought-provoking and really important topic that I feel like we're just scratching the surface on clearly. But we really appreciate the dialogue. I just wanted to open the floor to our principal, Mr. Eldred, in case you wanted to say a couple words about specifically how these topics relate to our high school and the policies that are being developed there and how in general teachers handle AI at the high school.
Yeah, I mean, I would start by saying I appreciate the both of you, bringing up the fact that, AI has us considering a lot as far as the safety and well-being of our students, starting with that. You mentioned that, the chatbots that are, can become friends. Academic integrity and critical thinking is key to who we are as a school and as a staff. So it weighs heavy, obviously, on us as to how students may be utilizing it. And, we really want to find a way to be able to manage this as much as we can as a school. And to that end, we do have the Ed Tech Committee in the district, which has been looking at, it's comprised of students and parents and staff and administrators, and looking at different sources and trying to kind of drill down what AI looks like at a school site, and then begin the process of trying to create a policy. We are fortunate enough to be in a small district where the district office cares about our input, and to that end, we have been able to bring in LACO to our PD days. We have one coming up on Monday. We had one about 4 weeks ago, and they have begun the process of sort of educating us about what is out there that is available, not just for us, but for students, and whether we are interested in using it or not is obviously completely up to us. But at least we're beginning the process of learning what exists. On top of that, we also have the ability beginning next Monday to start providing feedback in multiple areas for the Ed Tech Committee so that we can hopefully influence whatever policy is created for our students and for our staffs. I would just say that the LACO presentations for both the middle school and the high school have been the both staffs are in different places. And I don't want to speak for the middle school, but I know that the high school is fairly united in the idea that AI isn't going anywhere. It is something that concerns us. It is something that seems to have all of a sudden, entered our lives in an incredibly rapid way, like social media. And we need to find a way to manage it as a school and manage it in our classrooms and find a way to come to terms with it. So, for us, that's a process. There's a lot of conversations. There's a lot of reading. We're going to be utilizing different resources like LACO, like Common Sense, other school districts, policies, and things like that to get an idea of what people are doing so that we can come up with something that works for us as a high school. I think it's super important for students and parents to understand that this can be used in ways that we really, really do not want kids to tap into. And I'm not just talking about plagiarism, which has all sorts of repercussions and affects critical thinking and the things that we care about as a community, as a school, as a society. But the idea that you can generate an image of someone and put it on your social media in order to shame someone, make fun of them, to out them, whatever it is, has massive repercussions for students. The laws have changed around a lot of that stuff, and I'm not too terribly sure that our students really understand that. We have begun this process last year where we do a social media presentation with all of our students, literally showing them the law and giving them examples of what is unacceptable and the amount of trouble they can find themselves in. And I think AI is going to become a part of this if parents don't talk to their kids and if kids aren't careful about how they utilize it. So I'd say overall that AI is daunting for our staff, but we are taking a slow approach to trying to create a really thoughtful, intentional policy that we hope will create some boundaries for our kids that we are comfortable with, so that if you choose to use it or not in the classroom, great, then the kids understand what the boundaries are. If you absolutely forbid it, fantastic. The kids still know what the boundaries are. All of this stuff is completely optional, but it's here to stay, and we need to find a way to manage it and to make it work for South Pasadena High School. So thank you both for coming on and making us aware of some of the data and some of the things that are out there as far as how it's affecting our kids and how it could potentially affect them, whether positively or negatively.
Thank
Absolutely. Well, take
you,
care.
Principal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for participating and for your thoughtful comments and questions. And for our speakers, again, we really appreciate you attending. And Principal, thank you again for wrapping it up for us. Once again, we will have the links to the slide set so that you can have the hyperlinks that way. And then we'll also have the full presentation posted through our website. Okay, so thank you so much. Appreciate your attendance.